Rosettes are a great way to take any cake from ordinary to amazing. So in today's video, we're going to go over some different methods of making some fun rosettes. My name is Kelly, and let's get clacking. As always, we're going to start in the project section of Cricut Design Space, as they have many ready-made projects for you to use. So we're going to go to the search projects section and we're going to search for rosettes. This will bring up a long list of ready to use projects, and one of them is bound to be perfect for what you want. There are a couple that I'd like to play around with. So today we're going to look at the space rosettes. That could be quite fun. So we're going to click on the item and we're going to click on customize because I want to be able to change some of the sizes. So now that the project is loaded in Design Space, I'm just going to zoom out a little bit so we can see everything. And we can see that there are some stars, they're all different layers. There's some rockets, which is quite cute. Can't wait to use some of those. And then a lot of these sections which we can then glue together. So we'll pretty much be able to cut this straight away. And we're going to need quite a few different card colors. I'm actually going to change the card colors. I want to use more of a blue color scale with this. So if we go to the color sync panel on the top right hand side, we'll see that there are a couple of different colors that we're going to use today. So we've got a light purple, a dark purple, black, two different grays, and then a slightly lighter purple. Okay, so I have a little bit more of a blue color scale that I'm going to be using for this video. And I do have quite a few offcut pieces and things like that I want to try and use. So I might even save this on to Design Space and use the SnapMat feature on my iPad to show you how you can use offcut cardstock pieces on projects like this, because there's lots of small things and it doesn't really make sense to, use an entire piece of cardstock for like a little star in a circle as an example. That's kind of what I tend to do with these kinds of projects. Another thing that I like to do with rosettes is to have these circles like this, and I tend to duplicate them and cut quite a few of them because these tend to be the inside, and I like to have a circle on the back as well. I think that's probably more just my personal preference, but I'll duplicate these. I'll probably duplicate another one of these ones just to have an extra circle to put at the back of the one with the stars in the front. I like to have something to be able to stick the stick onto. So that's just an extra tip from me. That's also why I like to edit these a little bit. I'm going to save this to my account just to have it on my iPad. And then at least we know when we go to the Make It panel, we can then, start moving things around. Like instead of cutting that over there, we can cut that over there. We can maybe move these a little bit. The way that Cricut Design Space organizes things is not always the most optimal way. So I like to kind of sometimes play around with them a little bit. Obviously, we'll do this on the iPad because we'll sort it out in the different sections, but I like to do it like that. I also want to make these a little bit smaller because I think these might be a little bit large for what I want to use them with. So I'm just going to downscale it quite a bit. Because if you look at like this as an example, this is one side of the rosette, which is 8 centimeters. I think it was about 10 or 12 centimeters, which means that your rosette is going to be quite big. I don't really need a rosette that big. Like if you're making it for cupcakes, then you definitely want the rosette to be quite small. I would probably make it 5 centimeters because even so, 5 centimeters on the one side, 5 centimeters on the other side, your rosette is still going to be 10 centimeters, which is quite big. That's another reason why I don't always just make these projects as they go, because I like to be able to control the size of them. So if we just zoom out again, maybe even make everything a little bit smaller, because I think 8 centimeters is a 16 centimeter rosette, which is still quite big. And then this way we were able to use a little bit less cardstock, because now if we go to the Make It panel, we'll see that all of these fit onto one piece of cardstock, which is obviously going to be a lot nicer to make. Okay, so now that I've made changes, I'm just going to save it again, just to make sure that when I open it on my iPad, the changes have reflected. And then we're going to hop over to the other side and we're going to get started with cutting and organizing everything. Okay, so here are some of the offcut pieces that I have that I'd like to try and use today because, you always save them for a rainy day. It's not quite rainy today. Today's a little bit cloudy, but I'll take it. So what I'm going to do, and I of course do have full 12 by 12s of the cards of most of the colors if I need them. So we've got a darker blue, a light blue, and then this kind of blue. So we actually have the choice of 4 different blues. This is normal A4 paper, as this is a little bit easier to use in rosettes, but obviously your rosettes aren't as sturdy. So I'll use this as a last resort, but I prefer to use the cardstock on these. Okay, so these are some of the offcut pieces that I have that I'm going to try and use. They should work for some of them. For a lot of them, they won't. Like the bigger piece that we have, I'll probably end up using that in this color, or just cutting it out of this one, as this is the darkest shade, and I think it was the darker purple that we need to use. So let's just take out the iPad. Let's go to My Projects, clear the search filter. Okay, and here's the Space Rosettes. So let's customize, just so we can get the right sizing. And I am going to click Make It, so that I can check the panels. Okay, so it wants us to work with the gray one first. And what I'm going to do, like what I did on Design Space on the computer, is going to try and see if I can get this to sit a little bit better, to use a little bit less cardstock. There's no use in wasting. I really do like the feature where if they are overlapping, like you can see here, the lines actually turn yellow. So you know that you need to move it over a smidge just to make sure that they don't intersect there. Now we can use a little bit less cardstock there, so we don't have to worry about that wasting too much. But that is the grey one, the lighter grey, so I'm not going to worry about that one too much now. And then we have the lighter purple, which is going to be the lightest of them. We might even be able to get away with this one. So in order to do the SnapMat feature, I'm going to click on the SnapMat right here in the bottom corner. So if we click on that one, it'll now open up the feature where we can actually hover over the mat and see that. So I like to do this kind of before I get started, but you can also do this as you're going along in the process, which might be a little bit easier to work with. So just to show you guys how I use the SnapMat feature, I'm going to get started with that color. And we're going to see if we can use this piece of cardstock. We might be able to get 1 or 2 out of this one. What a lot of people do is they actually put the iPad on the table, on the edge of the table, and then they put the mat on the floor because that is the easiest to kind of level it out. I like to do it the challenging way, so I stand up and I, hover over it quite a bit, and you'll see that it has these little arrows that say that it must go to the edge of the mat. So you just need to hold it there and try and get the mat into that little section, and then it'll take a picture of the mat, and then you can place everything on the sections where you have cardstock. Okay, so now we've taken the photo, or we've let the app take the photo. We're going to click Use at the top right hand corner, and then you'll see you can position everything onto the mat. Just for the sake of ease of use, I'm just going to switch to this view. And what we can do is we can then take this one, select that one, move that there. They don't quite, they don't fit by like millimeters. So maybe what we should do rather is to scale everything down by like a tiny little bit, because then we should be able to fit. Okay, we won't even be able to fit them all on the same mat. So we can either just use a different color, a different cardstock, because there's no ways that we'll be able to fit all 3 of them onto the mat, but which we wouldn't have known had we not tried with the SnapMat feature, which is what I like. So it's a great way of using your scraps. And then when you're done, you can just click unsnap. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut everything, and then we'll join up once it's all done. Okay, so everything is cut, and now we just need to lightly and gently pull out the things that didn't quite come out as they came off the mat, but there's still, the cut was perfect. Every now and then you get 1 or 2 places that just hinged somewhere. Maybe there was a piece of dirt underneath and it didn't quite cut properly or something like that. It's very, very normal. This will then go into recycling, and this will then go back into my scraps folder for use on another project. Okay, so these are going to be making 3 different rosettes, but this will be the star. So then we put the star on top like that, and then the rocket. I cut them the wrong way. This should have been the gray, the white, and then this should have been, and then the planet goes on one of the circles, which is quite cool. And obviously we've cut extra circles to have at the back. So we should have, we've got 3 extra circles, which is great. What I like to do as well when I'm doing rosettes, like you'll notice that they have the score marks, right? So you can see the score marks, they're slightly shinier than the rest of the paper. Now to sit here and do that, because now you need to fold them every alternate way. So you need to fold this one in, and that one you need to then fold back. Right, so it's very time consuming to sit here, even though they've been pre-scored, it's very time consuming to sit here and do that. So one way that I like to kind of speed up the process, you put the paper in between your your index finger and your middle finger, and you roll it, because that will kind of loosen up the folds. Or you can even just do it like this. You can loosen up the folds before you get started, and then it'll be a lot easier to fold. And obviously because these are cardstock, they're going to be a little bit trickier to fold as well. So then we can much quicker and much easier actually fold the rosettes. So this whole process is then sped up significantly just because we've kind of, I hesitate to say hacked our way around it, but I suppose it is kind of a bit of a hack. Add it to my list of hacks. Your fingers do definitely cramp up when you're doing this though, because you've obviously got to try and keep everything together. But that is then one part of the rosette. So when you fold it out like that, it will then look like that. So you could probably stretch this into one rosette. They probably want you to do it. Oh, there's 3 of them. Yeah, that makes sense. So then it's a third essentially. So then we just do exactly the same process with the other 2. When you're starting out with folding the rosettes, make sure that you take note of the first starting section, because when it comes time to this, you want to make sure that you can glue them like this and not like that, because the seam won't look as nice. But if you're doing it like this, the seam looks a lot better, as you can see. So just take note of that. Okay, now this one I'm folding up because this one's seam is going to be locked in like that. So I'm just going to make sure that I'm taking note. It is a bit strange that this design has an uneven number of these. I don't know what to call them, but it works. It shouldn't be the end of the world in any case, no matter how you do it. Okay, so now we have all 3 of them together. What I can do now is actually glue them together. So for this part, I like to use my Jewel Bond. It's fantastic. But for the next section, I prefer to use my glue gun. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to plug my glue gun in so that it starts warming up, so that it's ready to go by the time we're putting these rosettes together. Okay, well this pattern is a little bit strange because these 2 sides line up like that, so they don't actually lock into each other. So we might need to cup them together just to not have too much of an ugly seam, which is not the end of the world, I guess, but could have been avoided. So we just lock those 2 into place there. And then what I'm actually going to do, because this one has, I know this is not really like a big deal or anything, but this one has a little bit of thing sticking up there, so you can see it's so you can see that little part there sticking up a little bit. So actually I'm just going to cut that down just because I don't want it sticking up over the edge of the rosette. Okay, and our glue gun is ready for us as well. So now when we put this flat, it's a little bit tricky in the beginning, so that's essentially what it'll look like, but you need to kind of pull it in quite a bit. So when you use your glue gun, you put a dollop of glue right there in the middle. Okay, so this is generally the planet one, so let's actually stick it onto this one. So we're going to put some glue in the middle here. See, our glue gun's already nice and warm. Okay, nice big dollop of hot glue. Push that in, bring it all the way around, and what I like to do is I like to do it from that side, and then make sure that you have everything nice and tight in the inside there. You can hold it there for a second or so, as much as you can bear if you can feel the hot glue. And then once you have it positioned, you can actually just give another dollop of hot glue. And again, this is why I like to have circles on either side, because now let's take a black circle. We can actually just cover that up, so you don't even notice the ugly side of it. And then you've got like double protection. So then it's glue on the one side and glue on the other side. We just take the spider strings off. Also not perfectly center, but it should be okay. And then we can take this glue. What I also like to do here is I like to change up the textures. Like here, we have a flat texture, but then there we have the textured paper, and this paper on this is textured as well. So okay, so then we take the glue, put the glue on the non-textured side. Okay, stick that down, move it around, try and keep it centered, and then we glue this down. And there we pretty much have our rosette, which is great. So essentially what I'm going to do with the rest is I'm going to do exactly the same as what I did with those ones. These ones are a little bit easier and we probably don't have to worry too much about that because the pieces are a lot bigger, so they're going to be a lot easier to fold. Super easy. Look at that. Okay, so with these ones, also they're even number of sides. So what you want to do is you want to kind of alternate. So instead of starting this one that way, I'm actually going to start it like that so that I can flip them up a little bit easier. And these are just the small things that you pick up while making rosettes. So you see there, it'll interlock into each other like that, and it'll look a little bit nicer, as opposed to this again where you have to lock them into each other like that. So just the small things that you notice. With a proper design, what they should have is they should have uneven numbers so that they automatically do that, and you don't have to worry about these things. It is a little bit of a pain to have to worry about it, not gonna lie. Okay, so we put a little bit of glue here. Lock that onto there. And while that dries, we're going to start with the next one. These ones have little folds on them, which is great. And then we stick them all together. Seems to be another file that the people don't quite understand how rosettes put together. So let me just flip everything. It's not annoying at all. But I suppose that's probably just the perfectionist in me talking. This one is the prettiest, but it's definitely the most frustrating. Good job I'm testing these things out for you, isn't it? Okay, while we wait for those to dry, I'm going to get started with the layering of some of these. So let's layer. Okay. So what I'm actually going to do first is I'm going to glue the backs of these onto these dots, so that what we can do is we don't have this problem again where it's, okay, granted it's only fractionally off center, but so that we don't have an off center again. Basically what I do when I'm trying to get it to lie flat is I grab it on either side with my hands, and then I push the inside in while kind of trying to maneuver the top and the bottom, mostly with my pinkies and my middle fingers. So you try and maneuver it in, and then you get it on the table like that, and then it's lying flat. So that's kind of the method that I've found that works the best. Then when it comes to holding it flat and keeping it flat, you want to try and hold it with as much of your hand as possible while leaving the middle open. So what you can then do is when you get the glue, when the glue gun is ready, you can then kind of drop the glue in the middle and then put the dot on. Or you can put the glue on the dot and then lay it on top there. But I think that putting the dot on the glue is a little bit easier than the other way around. And of course, what you want to try and do is you want to make that as circular as possible, because then you know that you'll have an even rosette. Because otherwise, if you don't, you'll have all of the rosettes, the sides, stuck on the one side, and then the other side will pretty much have nothing. Like it'll look a little bit funny. So you want to try and evenly disperse them so that your rosette can look even, relatively even like that. Let's see if this is warm enough. Okay, it is. So we give a nice healthy dollop, and we take our dot, place our dot. Also, because this is going to be the back, it's going to be a lot more forgiving if it's not like perfectly center. Okay, again, that was kind of off center, but again, that's why we do it on the bottom. So then what we can do on the top, we can put some hot glue on the inside. There we go. And we can almost immediately put the star on. We take the little spider webbies off, and there we have another rosette. And we can then start with the third. So you see, like, you kind of get it all into place, then put your fingers on either side. You can then adjust some of them if you like. You can make the hole a little bigger if you want your rosette to be a little bigger on the inside. That's also perfectly okay. I prefer to have mine a little bit tighter because then I can control it a little bit better. Hot glue gun. What you can do is you can always open it up a little bit, put a little bit of the glue inside, then close it so it kind of pulls the glue on the inside. More glue. And then we put our dot on. Be careful, obviously, because it's, hot. And then we have our rosette, and then we go quickly to the other side, that flat. Okay, let the glue go inside the rosette, and then a little bit more on the outside. And then we put our rocket to the moon on. Rocket Man. And then we can just pull off some of the glue or scrape off some of the glue that got stuck to places. I don't want it showing, although I've probably just made it worse. So you can see how big this rosette is. I mean, my hand, it's like the size of my hand. Now imagine if we'd left it the original shape, it probably would have been about that size. So rosettes can get very big very quickly. I mean, you'd be able to put this on a cake, a nice, very big cake, but you wouldn't really be able to put it on a cupcake or something like that. You'd have to scale it down quite a bit to get it to look nice on a cupcake. Yeah, but I think it looks fantastic. I mean, all three of them look pretty dang good, I'd say. And we've got nice color variation in them, which is always a lot of fun. And I'm really, really glad that you stuck around for this video. And I hope to see you in my next video. And remember, be kind to someone today. See you soon.